After the Game of Thrones finale, I've come to one conclusion. Dany deserved better. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Turnout. I'm your host, Aloy. Follow us on Twitter at TheTurnoutUSAA. Good storytelling is very important here on The Turnout, and that isn't to say that every story should be predictable or cliched. However, an audience is always looking for a satisfying ending, especially when it comes to some of their favorite characters. So today, we're going to be talking about how I would have ended Daenerys Targaryen's story in Game of Thrones. And I'm going to warn you, it's going to be very different than how it actually ended. Before we jump into that, don't forget to hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you're always alerted when we put out new videos. First, I do want to just go over where her story began and how we got to this point, and then I'll tell you what I would have changed at the end. Now, before sailing to Westeros, every decision she made was applauded by everybody. She was a liberator who killed evil men, as Tyrion so poignantly pointed out in the finale. However, once she was in Westeros, she wasn't seen as a liberator anymore. She was now an invader. She is a reminder of Westeros' dark past with the Mad King, and has the power of dragons, which is enough to instill fear in anybody, no matter how beautiful or kind you are. The people of Westeros were going to already have a very hard time accepting Daenerys. Queen Cersei, as despised as she was probably seen as the protector. The scary dragons are coming to burn down King's Landing, and only the Queen and the Lannister army will stand in their way. Yes, it is propaganda, but it's also pretty understandable from the point of view of someone in Westeros. And Daenerys was not born into privilege. She was born as a runaway. She was sold off to the Dothraki in exchange for an army. She survived assassination more than once, and she liberated hundreds of thousands of people. But we all saw that there was a dark streak. I don't think anybody's going to remain the cute and innocent girl that she started the show as, going through everything that she had to go through. I wouldn't even say that her dark streak was any worse than a regular person, but she definitely knew what she wanted. She was willing to do whatever it took to get it, and she was motivated by what she claimed was a birthright. The throne wasn't just something she wanted, it was hers because of her birthright. And she also had a lot of firepower in order to make that throne hers. But she surrounded herself with advisors who kept telling her to not be herself. Because what she wanted to do was, as soon as they set foot in Westeros, she wanted to go and attack King's Landing. Let's take the throne. That kind of makes sense. But no. She had advisors there who said, no, there's a smarter way to go about this without having to slaughter all of the innocents in King's Landing. And Daenerys is like, okay, you know what? I feel like we're in a situation where I should go ahead and trust my advisors. I don't want to come off as a bad person because I really do want to come and liberate these people and be the benevolent queen that I had always dreamed of being. So her advisors say, well, let's split up our forces and attack Casterly Rock. And in the process, she loses a ton of her naval forces, and Casterly Rock was abandoned, wasting all of her efforts and her resources for her armies. And the Lannister army wasn't at Casterly Rock because they went to destroy the Tyrells, who was an ally of Dany's. So listening to her advisors wasted resources and lost her one of her allies. And the Sand Snakes were killed, so lots of loss right up front. Of course, before the Tyrells were completely destroyed, Lady Tyrell gave Dany probably one of the best pieces of advice that she could.
Will you take a bit of advice from an old woman? He's a clever man, your hand. I've known a great many clever men. I've outlived them all. You know why? I ignored them. The lords of Westeros are sheep. Are you a sheep? No. You're a dragon. Be a dragon.
But of course she didn't follow that. She followed the counsel of her trusted advisors. They do win the battle against the Lannister army at the Gold Road, but also this gives them a glimpse at the Scorpion crossbows that have the capability of destroying dragons. And this lets Dany know that her hesitation to just go and attack King's Landing gave her enemies enough time to develop a weapon designed specifically to take her out. If they had attacked as soon as they got there, they would have never had the chance to make those Scorpion crossbows. After all of that loss, Jon and Tyrion convince Dany that they have to go up against the Night King, but they can't do it alone. They need Cersei's armies as well. And they have to go capture a White Walker in order to have proof for Cersei to agree. And of course, in the process, Viserion is killed so that her dragon can be used as a weapon against her. So that's one dragon down. Again, the dragons are Daenerys' children. She is the mother of dragons. So this is not only a huge military loss, obviously one of your dragons, but it's a huge emotional stake for her as well. Okay, well, I guess now we're just too deep into this now. So Tyrion convinces Dany to trust Cersei, and she complies. But Cersei is obviously lying. She does not send her armies to help in the fight against the Night King. So really, all of this was for nothing. And yet again, Dany didn't just go with her own instincts, which was to just, again, fly to King's Landing and just take it. She's following what everybody is trying to tell her to do instead of doing what she wants to do. The final battle with the White Walkers arrives. Here her forces take heavy losses. So much so that the show actually states that after the fight with the White Walkers, that Cersei's and Dany's armies are now equal. And just to reiterate that, that means that Dany's army was so much larger than Cersei's that they could have again taken King's Landing much easier and then just dealt with the Night King after the fact. They could have had this thing already done. So Cersei and Dany have a parley after Cersei's forces kills Rhaegal. Now that's 2 dragons she's lost. The talks, which Dany is again convinced into having, they don't go well. And then they kill Missandei, but not before she yells,
Dracarys!
again, somebody who is telling Dany to be the dragon that she should be, the one she should have been all along. So this, after 2 of her children have died, her closest friends have been executed, Dany has decided that she's not listening to anyone else anymore. She's gonna do what she wants to do. One is burning Varys. And you know what? He deserved it. He knew he deserved it. He said, hey, I'm going to commit treason here, and if I die, I die. And guess what? He died. So that was very much expected. But honestly, Dany, for the majority of her time since she arrived at Westeros, has been lost in a struggle between doing what her gut is telling her, which is just go take what's yours, and listening to her advisors, because the advisors are trying to tell her how she can win the hearts and minds of the people of Westeros, and not just take the crown. But every time that she denies herself, she's lost. But if she was to give in to her gut feeling, then she's labeled a monster. But honestly, I'm with Lady Tyrell. She needed to be the dragon, and she was trying to not be. So now this is where I would have changed the story. I think everything leading up to the final episode actually kind of worked well, but the ending for Dany's character arc, frankly, kind of sucked. So here's how I would have changed it. Everything would have stayed the same in the beginning. I'm going straight to the throne room in the scene where Dany and Jon are there, and they're about to have their final kiss, and he's trying to get her to say anything that is remotely going to convince him that not killing her is the right thing to do. And he may reach for his blade, and she sees him reach for his blade, and she instead takes it and stabs him. Yes, Dany kills Jon in this rewrite. Not only that, but Drogon comes up, sees them in their embrace, and there's blood, and he immediately pours dragon fire over the 2 of them. Obviously, Dany is immune, but when the fire goes away, she's standing there holding the skeleton that was once Jon. And I feel like this should have been the thing to change her. She loved Jon, and she really wanted the throne, and she was willing to kill even Jon, the man that she loved, someone who she never thought of as an enemy, somebody who had always stayed loyal to her. This could have been her turning point. Now, finally, having done the worst thing that she could possibly think to do, she's decided that she has to find some sort of balance between the dark and the light side of her persona. So she's not going to be all good. I don't see that as actually being a thing. She's not going to be seen as a good queen by the majority of the people in Westeros, and that's just because she's the sibling of the Mad King and has dragons, and there's a lot of fear tied up in that. But she can also learn how to control her darker impulses and choose not to be completely mad either. She can be a fair and just ruler, instead of the Mad Queen that it seemed like the show was trying to portray her as. So yes, of course, that does mean that she had to execute Tyrion, and that's how Tyrion would have gone out in a blaze of dragonfire, and then she would have assembled all of the nobles, just like how we saw, and she would have said, hey, I'm your new queen, let's try and make this world better. And anybody who agreed, I could see her doing like an immediate thing of like lots of resources and gold and love, and basically saying everything that she's going to do is she's going to be as prosperous as possible for all of the people of Westeros. So they'll have the new queen's aid, and I think that that could be a good way for some of those other noble houses to kind of be like, okay, cool, like I guess we're okay with this because you're going to take care of us all now. It's not as if you're coming in and you're going to be a tyrant, you're going to take us all over. You are actually going to be a good queen, kind of similar to how Marjorie Tyrell was being. Like, she was really nice to everybody, she wanted to take care of the poor. Like, that is kind of where Dany's focus should be. But I also see her having a separate meeting with Sansa, where the two of them actually sit down and they share each other's stories with each other. And she will even share with Sansa how Jon died. And there will be some hurt feelings, but I think that both of their families are so scarred from all of the war that I think the two of them could come up with some sort of understanding. Maybe they share their feelings about everything that they've had to go through, and they find strength in their convictions, and they find some camaraderie there. And then Sansa still gets to be the Queen of the North, with Jon's death as payment. The King of the North had to die for the North to be free. So in this case, Dany gives the North their freedom. She becomes the queen of the Six Kingdoms, and she goes on to be a benevolent ruler. She learns from everything in her past, and she's resolute to never be the Mad Queen ever again. Then we flash forward a few years. We see her on the throne, conducting business as usual, and you also see all of the Six Kingdoms thriving. Everybody's happy. There is no more White Walkers. There's no more warring all over the place. She really has brought beauty to the kingdom, and everyone is happy. And then the last scene of the show is one of her royal guard removing their face, showing Arya underneath, and Arya is about to kill her, and then cut to black. Obviously, Arya would be doing that as revenge for Jon's death. And I could actually see that as like a really cool way to end the show, because I think it fits with a lot of the themes. And I feel like this rewrite that, obviously could have been pretty awesome. I think it would have been. But I feel like this rewrite would have given a satisfying ending to one of the best characters on TV for the last 10 years that everybody loved. It would have humanized her as well, instead of making her into this weird cartoon monster. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think about this rewrite for Dany's ending. Tell me down in the comments. Feel free to throw some emojis down there as to how you feel about this rewrite. I think it's really cool, but I want to know what you guys think. Otherwise, if you like this, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel. Check us out at usaaudiences.com for special event and movie screening invites. And until next time, I'm your host, Aloy. This has been The Turnout. Thanks for showing up.